Empire France, street liker. This is one of the most beautiful streets. It is very clean here, despite the large number of people, calm and peaceful. You can admire these views for a very long time, which is exactly what the girl driving by is doing. She rides in a carriage and through the window, she sees other people walking around, enjoying life, but for her, it's a little different. She has been very upset since the morning. During all this time, she has never smiled and has not seen a single reason for happiness. However, as has been the case lately, this is Olivia Madeline, the eldest daughter of Duke Madeline, and next to her is Wincing, who is trying in every way to cheer her up. She asked if she remembered correctly that next week on Monday the lady was going to the palace again to see His Highness the Crown Prince, to which the girl replied that everything was correct. Since the girl was there on Wednesday, and on Monday they send her a carriage again. From the outside it looks very romantic for the assistant, and she is very happy for her. But when she said that it looks like His Highness the Crown Prince loves Olivia very much, the lady looked down as if she feels that it is not so. The Crown Prince, the man who had been her fiancé since they were 9 years old, when they were still children, but a lot had changed in that time. Like many noble families whose union is concluded out of necessity, there were not a single day of any feelings between these two people for each other. With their hearts, they loved completely different people, and the guy didn't hide it, so he put Olivia in second place. The girl was used to being in the shadows and dreamed of meeting the person who was destined for her by fate. If, of course, such a person even exists, because every year she doubts it more and more. She sees happy lovers all around, but in her life there has never been anything like that. Olivia often imagined what it would be like to feel loved and live to make her loved one happy. All the time she had only one-sided feelings. Out of desperation, she even tried to love the prince, but his coldness pushed her further and further away. Even despite this, she continues to hope that if she offers a little more effort one day, this only man in her life will finally pay attention to her. Unfortunately, he is so handsome that in front of him she loses self-control and agrees to everything he offers, and also believes his every word. The lady first met the Crown Prince on the day he turned 11, a day she remembered for the rest of her life. The first thing he told her was that she had a very beautiful and unusual name, although everyone she meets for the first time says that, and he didn't surprise her with this phrase then. Meanwhile, today is a special day. This is the first time she goes on a date with him when he invited her himself, without hints and scandals. Now she thinks that her father would be glad to know this and even smiled for a moment, although it was almost imperceptible. After that, they drove for a short time, stopped in the middle of the street and decided to take a little walk. They had about half an hour for that. The lady behaves quite modestly, but the assistant is surprised by every part of this street. Although, if it were possible, the girl would behave exactly the same way. But as it is, she can be recognized, and they will think that she has problems with manners. There really is a very good atmosphere here. You feel that it is absolutely safe around, and this is important. They were passing by a display case, and the assistant literally froze in place from what she saw behind the glass. She even found out that most likely this is Madame Pluto's new job. The dress is in her style, glitters, and attracts all the attention. She just thought that the dress would perfectly suit the type and color of the lady. The lady already asked for Sally, so she can tell this boutique to come to the mansion next week because it might not work out any earlier. The assistant was happy that the lady would finally sew such a dress for herself, but Olivia upset her because she was doing it not for herself, but for Esseli. Sally is no longer embarrassed to ask how long the mistress will take care of only Lady Essel, and she herself walks in the dark and has probably already forgotten the last time she went shopping. She thinks that Olivia would also suit such bright colors, although she has never seen her in anything like this, and the girl herself probably can't imagine something like that on herself either. She's just the kind of person who gets pleasure from giving gifts to others rather than to herself. So anyone who gets along well with her is very lucky. The girl promised that she would definitely buy something for herself a little later, but definitely not today, because she had completely different plans. Sally got carried away and started complaining that the lady was the Crown Prince's bride, but was behaving so modestly, and also asked if she was really just going to check the mailbox and go inside today. To which the girl replied that everything was absolutely correct. They were passing by two women, and they, as if on purpose, loudly began to discuss her and even called her a bastard. One of them says that she literally has some kind of evil aura coming from her, and it must be for a reason that she became the bride of His Highness the Crown Prince. Sally usually doesn't forgive such statements. She was already furious and was ready to literally attack them and punish them for every word. But the girl stopped her because this was not the first time. and she was not going to waste her energy on those who are more interested in someone else's life than their own. Moreover, she doesn't want to make any unnecessary noise because she planned to go out into the street calmly today and return just as calmly, without incident. She suggests leaving here calmly, not to provoke these ill-mannered people because, at the very least, they do not deserve her attention. Sally thought that indeed, if they ignored them, they would be offended that their manipulation had failed and would hardly behave the same way next time. After that, she suggested hurrying to the post office because something told her that there should be something there today. Olivia's only and secret hobby is writing, and it was pure chance that she started corresponding with a knight whose name she didn't know. About a year ago, after her younger brother Jade went off to war, Olivia, wanting to help in some way, sent humanitarian aid, but Jade returned everything she sent. And then, deciding to try, she sent things under a false name, Liv Green. Then she found out that her brother's unit was making good use of the things she sent. That was great news. Since then, humanitarian aid has never returned, which she was extremely happy about. Although he didn't accept anything from her and had to send the same thing under a different name, the girl wasn't offended, because it was more important to her that these things were used, and it didn't matter from whom he accepted them. After some time, one day she received a letter from an unknown sender. As soon as she found out about it, she ran to open this letter, and there was gratitude for everything that she sent, respectively. They thanked Liv Green, a fictional person, but she was still pleased. After that, for about a year, she received all sorts of different letters each time she waited for a new one to arrive. Eventually, this communication became a habit, and she also liked that the letters had a lot of words. You could read them for a very long time. At some point, they stopped. It happened 6 months ago, and since then the girl and her assistant hope that everything is okay with him and that he is just busy, so he does not have time to be distracted. Sally saw how hard it was for the lady, so she tried in every way to support her and distract her so that she would have fewer negative and scary thoughts. Meanwhile, the assistant seems to want to finally check her mail more than she does, as if she feels that there will be something special there today. Suddenly, they witnessed some kind of conflict. Someone demanding payment for the ride from someone else, and also some not very nice words were heard there several times. Some person is outraged that they still charge for travel here, because in some places it hasn't been like that for a long time. That girl who just didn't want to make an extra scandal suddenly looks at this company as if she's going to go there to sort things out. Then a second later she ran towards them, and the assistant didn't recognize her because this had never happened before. She wanted to suggest that they go around the other side, but the calm lady suddenly became bold and absolutely confidently asked them to stop what was happening here. It's very interesting what will come of this and whether these people will recognize her, which is very happy because people like them obviously cannot know her by sight. They perceived her as an aristocrat as usual and began to mockingly discuss what she was saying. And they also said that apparently she has someone to rely on, but her knights are nothing, so they advised not to interfere. This offended her greatly. So the girl immediately ordered the knights to seize these daredevils and show who was nothing here. They somehow didn't think that she would react like that. But now they see swords in front of them, and they noticeably stopped feeling so confident. They wanted to show that they were not afraid of anyone, but it would have been better if they had listened to her right away and tried to find some kind of compromise. This guy who spoke to her so rudely looks at her with fear in his eyes so that she won't tell the knights anything else. He is not used to giving up. He likes to feel powerful, so he could not think of anything better than to grab that man, with whom they were arguing, put a sword to his throat, and warned that if anyone came even a millimeter closer to him, they would be to blame themselves. It's strange, but the guy behaves absolutely calmly, as if he feels that he has nothing to be afraid of and hasn't even moved during this whole time. He just looks at this girl's knights and waits for them to take action, because without them, it's unlikely that anything will be decided here. Meanwhile, she gives them some orders, explains something, and this means that they are not going to watch all this calmly. Then she acted as if she hadn't said anything to anyone and began to hold back the smile that was just asking to come out. She knows her charges very well, so she has absolutely no doubts about them and knows that they will not disappoint her. The guys literally moved half a step. This daredevil panicked, began to warn that he was going to hurt him now, but no one listens to him. The knights literally pounced on him, and he couldn't even make the slightest wound. This means that he is only trying to appear brave and ruthless. But in the end, it was a circus that no one fell for. The knights proved their strength by deeds, not words. And then they approached the man and asked if everything was okay. At that moment, her assistant ran up to her. She doesn't say anything because she is perplexed and is waiting for an explanation of why she didn't do it where it was safe to quarrel. But with these two impudent people, she could easily That man approaches the lady. He probably has something to say, and everyone is also interested in looking at his face. While he was silent, Olivia was the first to ask if everything was okay with him, and she also became a little embarrassed, although just now everything was the opposite. Suddenly, he literally started falling on her. But fortunately, everything worked out. He was able to control himself. Otherwise, they would have fallen on the stone floor together, and she would have definitely hit her head so hard that she would have lost consciousness. The guy apologized, then said that his legs just gave out and he was in a difficult situation, and now he thinks that he should somehow thank her for her help. He also said that if it weren't for the help of this kind lady, he doesn't even know what would have happened to him. Although he looks like those two didn't pose any danger to him. It looks like he's pretending she did something special for him. Although, if he wasn't sincere, he wouldn't have a tear in his eye. Sally is not the type of person to believe in such manipulations. She thinks that he is rather trying to look weaker than he actually is. Even from his clothes, it is clear that he is clearly an aristocrat. But it is not yet clear who exactly and why he is without assistance. And in the Noble Almanac, Olivia did not see any information about such a man. Not at all. Then she began to look at him more closely and was surprised how she could not understand the elementary, because judging by his red eyes and black hair, one can assume that most likely. In front of her now stands Duke Vikander, the one who has won every battle he has fought, and recently won the war with the Keperdi, which lasted more than 3 years. He is a military hero and a ruthless ruler of the North. Edwin Vikander Dowell, Duke of the North. And that means that for some reason he hid and didn't take revenge on those two guys, because if he had, it could have ended very sadly for them. Then the girl looked at him with such a look as if she had already understood everything and wanted to ask visually whether it was true or not. Maybe it seemed to her, but he seemed to smirk in response, which means that he really was the one who didn't need help. She still told him that she was glad to help. She felt a little awkward, but at least she showed herself in a good light and made a good first impression. Suddenly he says that it's not just about helping, and after that he once again calls her his savior. Olivia can't understand what a person could do in such an unsafe place, although for him it's not a problem anyway. Someone like him doesn't need extra problems, so as not to waste time on it. If he came not with a mercenary but with a knight, then he could be one of the newly minted nobles. And most importantly, an imperial aristocrat would never approach her so casually. After all, she is much lower in status. After that, she said that she was fine, and asked him to tell her where he had lost his knight. To which he replied that where there is a fountain and a lot of carriages, and she thought again, because she probably understood something again. Here they are already approaching the fountain. It turned out to be even more beautiful here than in that square. The girl even thought that she would come here more often because she really likes it here. They stopped, and the girl suggested that he go on alone. The carriage was already close, so he wouldn't get lost, but he hinted that it would be nice if she took him even further. And he also said that if he met his knight, he would give her precious things. Olivia laughed slightly and replied that she would only accept his attention. She somehow didn't think that he was so persistent. The guy is already offering to arrange a next meeting, but for some reason, she doubts that this will happen. He didn't put pressure on her. He said that he understood everything and now he would only hope for another chance to meet her. Because if it's meant to be, it will happen. Perhaps she is simply very embarrassed by this look, so she decided to not be as easily accessible as she would like. At last, he only said that if she became the day when they saw each other, he hoped that she would allow him to repay her for her kindness. She no longer knows what to tell him. She's afraid to even make any sounds, so as not to say too much. Even though she had just, one might say, ignored him, this man still greatly interested the lady. Although most likely it is because she has never heard so many nice words and respect from any man she has ever interacted with. Even from her fiancé, who should treat her better than anyone else, but it turns out that strangers treat her better than her loved ones. Then she thought that she needed to pull herself together, because this man was just kind, and he didn't know who she was. In the end, she warned him right away that she had high standards and would never accept anything she didn't like. He says that this is very good, because he always strives for the best, so he is always full of valuable things. He left behind some strange and at the same time unusual impression. But the girl is afraid to admit to herself that in fact, there is something in him, and he is not as indifferent to her as she shows. In the end, it turned out that she left first. He saw her off together with his assistant, who still doesn't suspect what's going on here. The guy started to remember what else he needed to do today, and then accidentally looked towards the gentleman, who looks after the carriage as if he really didn't want it to leave. He notices this for the first time. The assistant understood everything perfectly. He saw that Advil was talking to some lady and even seemed to understand who she was. There is just one thing. The girl is the daughter of the head of the Emperor's party, whom Edwin hates. And this is already very interesting, and most likely, he did not recognize her and still does not understand who she is. The assistant did not remain silent. He immediately asked what was going on with this lady. But the gentleman remained silent and thereby made it clear that he was not going to talk about it. For 10 years now, by order of this damned emperor, his lordship the Duke has been fighting on the front lines. He must not have any points of contact with the young princess who grew up in the capital. He argues with the second-in-command, Jade, Madeline's second son, on every occasion, and there can be no talk of introducing him to the sister of this deputy. While Winster was thinking about this, the gentleman turned to him, only with such a voice as if he was about to say something unusual. The guy was already wondering what was happening to him, but now he was afraid to ask. You never know what Edwin's mood was like. In the end, he said that he didn't want to go to the palace, and it sounded about the same as if he had said that from that day until the end of his life he would not eat anything. That is very strange. Edwin also says that no matter how he arrives, everyone will talk about him giving his merits to someone or swearing allegiance. He can't wait for something to happen to the emperor. The loud one's assistant asked him not to talk about it in a public place, but the gentleman only made a remark that he shouldn't shout, although he himself was corrected for this very reason. Meanwhile, the assistant himself thought that he somehow didn't want to go there either, and he no longer saw anything wrong with it. Although at first I perceived these words as something unimaginable, and already wanted to argue and convince him. And in the meantime, the girl has already returned to the residence of the Duke of Madeleine. She calmly enters and does not even imagine that a surprise is already waiting for her inside. He and Sally enter the room, and the first thing they notice is an incredible bouquet, with a note that perfectly matches the color of the flowers. The assistant immediately began to say that they were probably from the Crown Prince, and the girl simply silently took them in her hands, because she didn't expect anything like that. And besides, she had flowers like that once before, and they were exactly the same, as if this was the very thing. They are no different from those that the knight sent her a year ago. She remembered them very well, so she cannot be mistaken. Then she became curious about the message on the postcard. She calmly opened it, but she couldn't even imagine what she would read there. It says the following. It would be useful for the Duchess to know the meaning of this flower in case she doesn't know it. Write it down along with the flower. The meaning of this flower. The end of my soul belongs to you. I look forward to next Monday. Of course, after such words, any girl's heart will melt in that very second. She became very happy. The assistant already wants to know what is it that made the lady's face blossom for the first time in this long day. The Leopold she knew was just like that. A sweet man who chooses flowers knowing their meaning. For someone like her, there must be some reason for the current Leopold. Maybe it's because of her shameful nickname. When this whole situation is resolved, she feels like he might love her. The Street of Vagabonds is not the most pleasant place, especially for a girl to live, and in principle for any person. She was born and lived there, and even at such a young age, Olivia instinctively understood that her mother suffers every day and that sooner or later this will lead to her death. And this will happen when she is not yet ready for an independent life. One day, the woman decided to talk to the child. She confessed to her that the father, who, as she said, was actually alive, and that he will come very soon, and there are also some brothers and sisters there that the girl doesn't know yet. And it's more fun than here. Mom kept repeating that sooner or later she would leave this world, leaving her here alone, no matter how much they both didn't want it. She begged the girl to be happy even without her. But it is impossible because without the only support in life, she will never be like that. The place that Mom was talking about turned out to be so big and luxurious that the girl couldn't even believe her eyes at first. She looked at everything around her as if it were some kind of picture and did not understand whether someone really lived in such conditions from the very first day of their life. She was used to poverty and thought that this is how it is for most people. Well, this is not true. At least for half of the people, it is definitely like this. And she also didn't believe until the very end that she could have such a rich father. She also had a grudge against him, because if he had so much, he could at least help his child with food. Olivia didn't expect a warm welcome, but her father's gaze was so rude that from the first second she felt that even he wasn't happy to see her here. And this move was simply forced because her mother died, and there was no one else who could take care of her. She was afraid of what would happen next. The girl was afraid that she would be used, and that life in such a luxurious house would be far from luxurious. At first, she even thought about running away from there to live peacefully in the conditions she was used to, but she never decided to do it. Back then, she was still embarrassed because she looked completely different from others. She had a dirty head, clothes, and in general, a look that completely reflected her life. Meanwhile, she was met by Albert Lanchinson, the butler of Madeleine's house. The man offered to take her to a room so that people could rest after a long journey. After that day, the girl's life changed a lot. The first days, all the servants in this house started to talk about her. They noticed her green eyes and thought that her mother was a street dancer because she did not look like young Mrs. Essela, her father's second daughter. They didn't even hesitate to loudly discuss her when they passed by the room, and it seemed like they did it on purpose so that she could hear everything. The girl did nothing but hide under the blanket in the room and almost never came out. And she was simply ashamed and terribly uncomfortable with these people. There was not a single person nearby who could support her, or at least be neutral towards her. One day, she asked the nanny to go outside, even for a few minutes, but the woman replied that she couldn't go there. The girl asked why, because no one had ever said that to her before. The nanny laughed at first and then said that her appearance greatly upset the Duke, and then reminded her that she herself should know that it was because of her that the Duchess had fallen ill. Olivia asked what she meant, and the woman was no longer afraid to say something unnecessary. She said that because of her alone, such a noble family of dukes became a laughingstock, and it was impossible to pretend that it did not concern her. She doesn't like that no one tells the child the truth, although it is clear that she is the only one who does it with pleasure. After that, she began to do her hair even more slowly, in order to express everything she wanted. For example, that the Duke and Duchess, who never quarreled, began to quarrel, that the older gentleman walked around as if he had fallen into a daze, that the younger gentleman began to cry at night, that poor Lady Essela turned from a precious daughter into a second daughter, all because Olivia came into this house. After thinking, she came to the conclusion that perhaps it was all about this hair, because it was thanks to this silver hair that she got here. The girl answered that this is not so. She got here because she is the daughter of her father. After that, the nanny asked if she really thought she would have been able to come here if it weren't for that hair, and then suggested getting rid of them right now, cutting them so short that there would be no length left, yeah? The woman started pulling her hair so hard that the girl screamed and said that she didn't want to do it, to which she heard that she was selfish and that she wouldn't stay there for long with such a character, and then asked the girl if she wanted the Duke and Duchess to suffer looking at this hair. In the end, the young lady gave in. She agreed to this adventure. She probably just became scared that if she didn't do it, her life here would turn into hell, and that's what would most likely happen. After this, the woman also said that the girl now looks exactly as befits her position. Olivia looked out the window at that moment and was immediately flooded with memories of how her mother always talked about her hair, that she had a very unusual color, how she complimented her on it every day and admired it as if she had the same hair. If Mom were alive now, she would not have said such words to her. It was as if the energy that she had been filled with from Mom all these years was stored in her hair. Several days have passed. She still can't get used to herself in this appearance. She doesn't even look in the mirror on purpose, so as not to start hating herself. The girl woke up in the middle of the night because she was so hungry. She couldn't hold on anymore, so she quietly left the room. Goes into the corridor, thinking that she will just find something to eat and immediately return. Will scold again if she sees her. It's so dark in the corridor that you can't see anything, not even what's under your feet. She tries to walk carefully and quietly, but it only turns out the opposite. So she tripped really hard, hit not only her legs but also her head, after which she couldn't even get up normally right away. She imagined her mother running up to her at that moment, feeling sorry for her, but she could only see that in her imagination. It's so painful for her now to imagine that all this could have happened in reality, but her mother was not saved and now she can only be remembered. She has images before her eyes of them talking about something together, of how warm and comfortable she feels with her. How Mom said that everything would be fine, that she was there, and that someday there would be a bright streak in their lives. She mostly remembers her tears, but even in that state, her mother managed to be a support for her, which was irreplaceable. The girl started to cry a little, started to rise little by little, and at that moment she heard someone approaching her from behind. She clearly understands that she is no longer alone here, and is afraid to find out that this is the same nanny who will clearly not pass by her calmly, and will make a scandal. Lucky, it's not a nanny, but it seems, judging by the silhouette, it could be a duchess, but it's not clear whether this is for the better or the opposite. It would be better if a nanny were here. The girl was confused. She had almost never seen her before, so she had no idea how she would react to her now. She started apologizing for falling in that corridor because she was almost sure that this man hated her, especially after the nanny said that Because of her, the Duchess and the Duke were only having problems. It's as if she will remember these words for the rest of her life, and the feelings she experiences are simply impossible to convey in words. And the girl also apologized to her for being in that corridor at the same time as she was, and even said that from now on, she would know her place. The woman came even closer to her. From this, the child almost lost consciousness. Olivia thought that something terrible was about to begin, and all her fears would be confirmed. But the woman calmly asked who told her that, as if it was not true at all, and now a lot will become clear, but this is already interesting. She replied that she heard it from the nanny and seemed to be preparing to be hit, and regretted that she had left the room at all. Suddenly, the Duchess gently puts her hand to her head, and from that moment, the girl already understands that not everything is as she imagined. She even looked into her eyes and couldn't believe that no one had beaten her up or called her names yet. Olivia even saw her mother in her for a second, because they are very similar, one could even say, visually and in behavior. The girl was embarrassed, but still suddenly felt calmer, although she couldn't even imagine that it would be easier for her in front of the Duchess than in front of the nanny. After some time, they are already sitting in some room. In front of the girl, there is a full menu. Apparently, she confessed why she left the room. The Duchess not only didn't say anything bad to her, but also warned that if the girl starved, she wouldn't grow up, which meant that it wasn't on her initiative that she was being given less food than she was supposed to. I would like to hope that after this he will think that this needs to be sorted out, because if this continues, the child may start having stomach problems, and this is no joke. Olivia pounced on all this food so much that she didn't even have a break. She grabbed everything in a row to get full and not be hungry for a long time, because who knows when she will eat next time. This food seems very tasty because she eats it in a calm environment. It was brought with good words, and not like the nanny did it. At first, she felt awkward, but then she thought that since the Duchess was so kind to her, she should take advantage of the opportunity and eat her fill. Especially since the woman will see that she has problems with this and perhaps deal with the nanny, who clearly says and does not what she should. It turns out that she, at the very least, is lying about how the Duke and Duchess treat her. And while no one knows, she is feeding the child much less food than is required. Meanwhile, the woman noticed that the girl had cropped hair, although a couple of days ago she saw her with a gorgeous length. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she complained about the nanny and said that it was her decision, although she had long begged her not to do it. She also said that, according to the nanny, because of her hair people speak badly, and it is unpleasant for her and the master to look at it, that is why she looks like this now. Olivia also apologized for wasting her time on her problems when she shouldn't have. At this moment, a woman comes up, gently touches her face and says that the girl is not guilty of anything. After that, to make sure of her words, she asked just in case if she had done anything wrong, and the woman answered that, of course, absolutely nothing. Olivia exhaled with a clear conscience, and now she will have to deal with what concerns the maid, who apparently has some personal dislike for this child. The girl thought that the Duchess would slowly sort out this matter, that nothing would really change, but that same evening she called her nanny for a serious conversation. From that day on, everything changed as if by magic. The girl noticeably felt how everything around her began to change for the better. The lady introduced her to her daughter, hoping that the girls would become friends and get along well. The first time she saw Ursula, she seemed very sweet, beautiful, but still it was somehow awkward to get to know her, although she herself did not understand why she was doing this and what was stopping her. And it was also surprising to her that she was allowed to call this beautiful little person by name. This is actually how it should be. They are sisters after all. They looked at each other for a very long time, got used to each other, and the girl did not even notice how she began to feel calm in the presence of the Duchess, although at first she thought that this was impossible and that she hated her even more than the nanny. That day, the woman said that she had sent the nanny away and that everything she had told her was not true, and it would be better if the child forgot every word she had heard from that terrible man. She's even ashamed that she did not keep an eye on it and did not know all this time that the child was suffering next to her. But fortunately, it quickly stopped. The woman suggested that the three of them go for a walk, and along the way she told Olivia that she had 2 older brothers, and if she wanted, she could introduce them. The eldest is 11 years old. His name is Conrad. The second is 8 years old. His name is Jade. The girl asked to call them brothers like her sister, and also said that Conrad is currently studying at the academy and that they will both return today. It's a very interesting walk. The girl even felt like a part of the family for a moment, although she never thought that she would ever feel this feeling even for a moment. Meanwhile, the boy had already arrived. He immediately ran to hug his mother, and she was very happy that he still does this. Then the boy noticed that there was another girl with them, so he asked who she was, at least without hatred in his eyes. How could it be? Mom explained that this was their sister. Her name was Olivia, and she would live with them. The boy seemed to be even happy. He greeted her, and it was so nice that the girl almost burst into tears. This family turned out to be even better than she imagined. And just a couple of days ago, she was afraid to even appear next to them, so that they wouldn't start offending her. These people turned out to be very friendly, nice, but such a wonderful moment ended very quickly. The second brother heard this conversation from the second floor and rushed to say that she was not his sister, and that he would never call her that, and also called her dirty, ugly, and looked at her with such a look as if she was his main enemy for the first time in his life. Mom started to calm Conrad down because it seemed like a little more, and he would literally beat her up. No one else could solve the situation except her, so she at least tried to do it. Of course, Olivia was a little upset, but she still had some peace of mind that most of her family treated her well, and might even be able to protect her, like now. Meanwhile, the next day came. The lady was going to go somewhere for a long time. Even the maids were surprised that this had not happened for a long time, and now, something new. She asked her eldest son to look after the younger ones and promised to return as soon as possible. The woman kissed all her children except Olivia, probably to avoid embarrassment, and her children started asking why she didn't do the same to the new girl. The Duchess promised to think about it when she returned. It seemed to her that she was still a stranger to her, and it would be wrong to do this in the first days after they met. But you can't explain this to the children. So she told them something else. In the end, she promised to return soon and asked them to behave well, and the children wished her a good journey. Olivia was left with a very good impression. She feels more or less calm now, and it is very good that she does not yet see her older brother's gaze on her. He seems to perceive her as an enemy, although literally half an hour later they were all having fun as if nothing had happened. My brother even created a whole fairy tale. He drew each one separately and is now ready to show his creation. This is Essela, the Amethyst Princess. In the land of gems, Princess Amethyst had a very beautiful older sister. And here is Olivia. Her name is Princess Emerald. Her green eyes sparkle, and she herself is incredibly beautiful. The princesses and princes living in the land of gems lived very, very happily together with Queen Topaz. It was so sweet that the girl burst into tears, and of course her brothers and sisters couldn't help but notice it. They asked what happened, why she started crying, and she had such a lump in her throat that she couldn't even explain anything properly. They started to offer different options, asked how they could help her, and these words made her want to cry even more, because she was no longer alone and felt their love. Only just after some time, her thought that perhaps she had a family shattered into pieces, not lasting even a day. All she heard was that it was all because of her, that if she hadn't come, everything would have been better. Of course, all these words were said to her by her older brother, because he is the only one who doesn't like her. He literally screamed at her with all his voice, and she was afraid to explain to him that it was not her fault, that they had the same father, and that after her mother's death she was moved here. All this was decided by adults, and she, like a child, simply accepted all the circumstances. Unfortunately, to all this was added a terrible grief. Everyone learned that on the way, the lady's carriage overturned and she could not survive. Of course, no one tells the youngest daughter anything, at least for now. But Olivia already knows everything. Her younger sister constantly asks her where her mother is, why everyone is crying, and why the whole house is so quiet. The girl felt that something was wrong here, but she didn't understand whether it was somehow connected with her mother or not. She started saying that she already misses her mother very much, asking when she will come back, but no one answers her. Because of which the girl after some time began to feel unwell. The servants called a doctor, but he has not arrived yet. Apparently he is delayed on the way. The child is suffering very much. He does not stop crying and cannot sleep peacefully, and she also has a high fever and slight tremors all over her body. Olivia promised herself that she would be with her all this time because she knows from her own experience how important it is to have support nearby. The girl is already looking at her with such eyes that it is impossible to hold back the truth, but at the same time, it is not possible to do it any other way yet. Everything was so sad when suddenly the distraught father of these children comes into the room and looks at one of them as if she is guilty of something. The girl looked into his eyes and saw nothing but hatred in them, although she doesn't understand why he only looks at her like that. The man comes up very quickly, grabs her by the hand. It was very painful, but because of the surprise, the girl didn't even say anything about it. She just endured it. When he had already started to lead her out of the room, the youngest daughter began to scream and beg him to let her sister go. She really didn't want the girl to leave her because it was much better to be with her than with these maids. They went into another room. The man threw the girl into the wall as if she was a bag of garbage. It was very humiliating and painful. She tells him that she wants to go back to Isella and calm her down, and he asks, how dare she pronounce his daughter's name with his mouth? But it's very painful to hear it from a father, especially when he looks at her like that. He's all in tears. He looks like he's about to attack her, although it's unclear what she's already managed to do wrong to him personally. Then he said that if she hadn't bumped into his wife in the hallway that day, she wouldn't have known anything. The girl never understood what she had done, and in the end, the man didn't talk to her anymore because he went to calm his younger daughter down. For the first time in all this time, she felt exactly the same as she thought she would feel in this house. Now her father will never forgive her, although she still doesn't understand why exactly. He is already near Isella, holding back from crying. But it doesn't work. The girl thought about it for so long that she had already forgotten that she was not alone. The assistant at first did not want to distract her, but then she still asked what was bothering her so much that she had been standing motionless for so long. She also said that if needed, she could help. The lady replied that everything was fine, although it was still clear from her that it was not so. The assistant didn't pry into something that wasn't her business. She simply reminded that dinner was ready and asked whether Olivia should come down right away or not. After all these memories, it was very difficult to gather with these people at the same table. After all, the imprint from childhood remained with her to this day. She constantly thinks that someone will remember that period of her life again and will blame her all day, or maybe even more. Sister and brother argue that she already wants to leave, and he noticed that the girl did not eat even half, so he asks to eat a little more. She explains that she needs to eat less than usual in preparation for her debut, and he immediately starts manipulating her, telling her that Jade sent a letter early in the morning and asked if she would like to see him. My sister immediately attacked the food as if she had been starving for several days, and she also said that today's steak was especially delicious. In the end, he agreed to give her the letter, although he should have done it just like that without all these manipulations because everyone has the right to look at the letter no matter what. They had all been waiting for this letter for so long to find out that he was okay, and he dared to act like this, in fact, in his own style. The excellent knight Jade volunteered to go to war with the Happerty a year and a half ago and went to the southern border, and since then, they have not seen him. Other knights get promoted and released and return safely, and Jade only occasionally sends letters. At this point, Olivia turns to her brother. She wants to know if by any chance she received any letter, because perhaps something like that should be, and it is possible that he is deliberately keeping silent about it. If you don't ask him about it directly, it's unlikely that he will ever want to please her and tell her about the letter. And in the meantime, he says that he doesn't even know. After that, he asked if she really had some kind of separate letter, with a smile as if she was not telling the whole story. How this man irritates her, so much so that it is simply impossible to describe in words. It is impossible to look at him and, even more so, to talk to him. Then he said in a cold voice that it seemed not to be this time, and that there was no letter for her. Although she very much doubted it. There's nothing to be done. All that's left is to take his word for it and continue having dinner because, unfortunately, I won't be able to do it myself or even without my brother. After that, the younger sister asked the girl about the debut so that she could tell how it all went. In fact, there was nothing good there. Olivia was always hoping that someone would talk to her. And of course, she doesn't want to talk about such things, so she answered that Isella would have done it incomparably better than her, and that she was absolutely sure of it. After that, the sister asked if she could go with her to the debut ball, and at exactly the same second, the brother very loudly put his cup back on the saucer. He tries to contain his emotions, but everyone already understood what he was thinking about it, even without any words. Olivia realized it was better to abstain even if she had no plans, so she said that unfortunately she would be busy with things and would not be able to be there with her. To calm down his younger sister, the brother offered to find a good lady to accompany her, if necessary, of course. And so that Olivia would no longer make her sister want to ask her to go with her, her brother told her to leave here. He didn't care whether she finished it or not. The main thing for him was that these two didn't cross paths in any way, especially at any events. And to irritate him a little, she listened to him. She wished him a good day and called him brothers. The girl knew for sure that this would anger him, and she succeeded. After that, he wanted to erase it so as not to remember it. This guy's thoughts are the same every day, about problems under the name. For him, she is a disaster. In this house, there is no other way to say it. He believes that because of her, their family collapsed, and that it was because of her that their mother died, who could have lived for a very long time. It seems to him that tearing her to pieces would not be enough, and he is also surprised how he manages to live with her in the same house. Meanwhile, Edwin Lowell Vikander came to the son of this empire and greeted it as it should be. His Majesty, as usual, began to hint that it was time for someone to get married and have an heir. And the guy, as always, said that he wasn't thinking about it yet. The man doesn't care. He just asked to listen to him. He wants to say that the crystal mine already went to the princess. Although it has now exhausted itself, this mine is the last legacy of the calm Grand Duchess, that very crystal mine. A mine given as compensation for the disappearance of the previous Grand Duke on the battlefield, and the only noose keeping the Grand Duke on a short leash. His Majesty wants him to marry the princess because after that it will be even easier to use the guy and the mine will remain the property of the imperial family. But of course, he didn't tell him that, but he said what he needed to hear. If the boy is destined to own this mine, he will remain in the hands of the master forever, forever. Meanwhile, Olivia received an invitation to a meeting from the crown prince, and of course, everyone around found out about it even before she did. Her close circle of friends is very happy for her, but strangers are jealous and do not hide it. Her sister is the happiest for her. She wants the girl to leave as soon as possible and come back as soon as possible to find out how everything went for them. It just seems to her that Olivia doesn't look as good in this dress as she could in another outfit. She gently hinted that I needed to try on something else. For example, something light and bright. It's just a pity that there is no time for this now. So they decided to go together later to choose a custom-made dress. And then her brother appeared nearby and said that no matter what she put on, she wouldn't become more beautiful. And in principle, there was no point in expecting anything else from him. Finally, the sister wished her all the best, a happy trip, and began to hope that the girl would return with a smile, and very happy. She even started to kick her out so that she wouldn't be late. And Olivia even laughed a little at this, because her sister seemed to want this meeting more than she did. First meeting outside the palace walls, Olivia hopes that His Highness the Crown Prince will like everything. Here she is already going to him, although inside she feels that a person cannot change, and even if the meeting will be good, sooner or later he will upset her. She tries to be as polite as possible in front of him, not to show what she really thinks about him. I'm very curious how it will all end, because she feels a catch in literally everything, every second. And he looks at her with such a cold gaze that she already wants to leave here, because it is clear that he is not even trying to show that he is a general. It turns out that some people spent a long time persuading him to meet, and if it weren't for those people, nothing would have happened. And all because she is from the Madeline family, so the guy listened and for the first time in a long time, decided to have this meeting. It turns out that even though he has a lover, she cannot give him as a bride, only because she is a half-breed. Meanwhile, he looks at her from head to toe, as if it was she who invited him to talk, and not he. The guy makes her feel embarrassed. Olivia is afraid to look at him. Yes, because she thinks he was most likely forced to talk to her. She literally feels that behind this smile there is absolute indifference and nothing more. Here they are already sitting opposite each other. The prince didn't even bother to take care of treating her to something. His assistant thought of that. She started bringing them tea, sugar, napkins, and if it weren't for her, they would have been sitting at an empty table. He started asking how she was doing. She didn't even have time to answer, and he laughed and said, how could she even think that he was interested in this? The assistant did not expect such words from him. She tries to do everything very slowly in order to overhear more and tell her colleagues about it. Olivia already wants to leave here. She is literally told directly that they met not by his desire, but simply because it was necessary, and he was asked about it. It's unclear what they could be talking about, and he's even smiling, as if he wants to tell her something that would make him happy, but not her. His Majesty had already drunk half of his cup, and then he remembered that something was missing and asked his assistant, bring fig jam, without which he won't be able to finish his tea normally. It calms him down and it's his favorite sweet. But that's not all. The thing is that this is not a random request. He knows perfectly well that she hates figs. Maria Ethel loves them. This means that he said this out of spite, so that even here they would remember his beloved, whom he cannot marry. In general, the conversation doesn't progress at all. They don't really talk about anything. They just act out of spite with all sorts of phrases. Maybe it would be better to break up right now. After all, there are witnesses that they met. Now, nothing is holding them here. It's impossible to imagine them talking about anything normally, without complaints and ridicule. And the guy also takes advantage of the fact that only he can say something like that to her. But she can't, because it would be considered disrespectful. In the end, she had no choice but to say that she had recently become very fond of figs and was grateful for the treat. But then the girl still got upset because she wouldn't be able to smile and pretend for long. Out of the blue, they didn't even have time to bring them figs. He was already getting ready to leave, saying that he couldn't last long without his beloved. It is clear that he cares only about those he loves, and he doesn't care about those he loves. These people are just empty space for him. Olivia wished him a good day, and these words were so unpleasant for him that he even stopped. When she saw that he wanted to ask something, she also thanked him for the time he had given her. Suddenly he came up to her, looked at her with his piercing gaze, and finally said that if she doesn't see it, then he will tell her the truth, that this color of dress does not suit her at all, and after that he will add that he cannot even imagine a color in which she would look beautiful. At the very last moment, she asked him not to send her flowers anymore, and he laughed and said that it wasn't even funny. Then, she was left alone in this room and began to think that it turns out that she had mistakenly thought all this time that he could give her something like this. Numerous expensive gifts, flowers filling the entire room, notes that make the heart flutter, and these cards with warm words. It's all from another person. But for some reason, she thought that he was the one sending all this, but only for show, as if everything was fine with them. It's actually too early for her to be upset because most likely he wouldn't spend so much money on her. She probably has a secret admirer, and it was all from him. She has very mixed feelings now. The girl no longer knows what's what, she's confused, and doesn't want to figure anything out anymore. She just wants to go back to the palace first and find out everything there, calmly, slowly, without nerves. The problem is that she told all her assistants the exact time when they needed to pick her up, and since she was free earlier, they'll have to wait for them. The girl went outside and almost immediately met a guy whom she definitely didn't expect to see here, and he probably didn't either. He took off his hood and asked how they could meet her here, and also hinted something like it was fate. This man makes her feel special every time, and she also really likes his carefree smile that calms her down at first sight. They also immediately began to remember their previous conversation, which said that if fate brought them together again, he would give her a lot of things, including jewelry. Surprisingly, she even started this conversation first, although the girl is not the kind of person who would ask for gifts. Perhaps she is not afraid of ruining his opinion of her, although this is clearly not the case. Or maybe she's just tired and does not understand how she looks from the outside. The guy says that, of course, he remembers everything and asked what he can do for her. But with such an expression on his face, as if he didn't want her to remind him of it. Maybe he's not having the best time right now, and she's asking for such a thing. In the end, she asked him to just help. Namely, to give her a ride and back home because it would take too long to wait for helpers, and this way she would return home before they left. And it also seems to her that every time she is near him, she has a feeling of complete safety and calm inside, that she doesn't even want to part with him. She expected to receive nothing more from him. And then he hands over a very beautiful turquoise box, which he probably decorated himself. She opened the box very quickly because she couldn't wait to see what was inside, and there was something inside that she definitely couldn't expect. There is a glove that is so unique that it is visible even at first glance. Even a person who does not understand this will understand it. The glove is made in a design that you can't see anywhere else. And after that, he asked her if she now believed him that he had all the most precious things imaginable. And then she had a question about whether it was even possible to accept such gifts and how right it was. Because if she did something wrong, he might misunderstand everything or think that she was communicating with him only for this reason. Naturally, she couldn't resist and immediately tried on the glove, and of course, so that he wouldn't think that she didn't like it. The size was perfect. It was as if he consulted with other people who could help him. And she also noticed that he was looking at her so intently that she was already embarrassed. But at the same time, somewhere deep down, she was very pleased. Here, they have already arrived at the palace. The trip was very long, probably because she was embarrassed and constantly waited for them to arrive. He gave her his hand so that she could get out of the carriage as expected, and Olivia was already starting to worry that someone might see them together. And then she wondered if she had asked his name. She wanted to address him somehow, but she couldn't remember his name. Then she somehow became embarrassed and changed her mind about asking, because you never know, maybe he'll get offended, although she really doesn't remember him introducing himself to her, literally. A second later, she abruptly changed her mind, asked him what his name was, and he replied that it was not the time for that yet. She still didn't understand what all these secrets were for, but if he says so, then she won't insist anymore. When he wants, he'll tell everything himself. After that, he said that it was time for him to leave. After all, he had spent a lot of time on the road, and this was not in his plans. In the end, the guy promised that he would definitely introduce himself to her very soon, along with the most precious gift. The girl asked if after this glove there was anything else he could surprise her with because she didn't think so. He asked how about a one-of-a-kind sword that was also encrusted with precious stones. She doesn't know what to answer him because she thinks that she doesn't deserve all this, and at the very least, there is no reason for such expensive gifts. Meanwhile, Olivia had already arranged a whole meeting. She said it was very important, so the assistant agreed to see her. The man asked how he could help her, and she admitted that she just wanted to check something. Tayaze Palace. The palace that all the previous brides of the crown prince have ruled. The palace that is used when the bride becomes a wife. Recently, Olivia also got a room there. After that, she started talking to him about what would happen if the servants exceeded their authority, and he was indignant that, firstly, she called him an assistant, and secondly, she was behaving as if she was in charge here. The father has changed a lot lately. He realized that at some point the girl could surpass him in status, and even accepted the fact that she turns to him only when she needs help and even sometimes calls him her assistant. And in the meantime, a couple of hours passed, and the Empress came to the Duke, probably on some very important matter, so he didn't even hint that he was actually busy. Of course, she was immediately greeted as expected, led into the living room and very quickly began to prepare treats. The woman suggests getting straight to the point because she understands that everyone is a very businesslike person, and it would be better not to delay, because if you try, everything can be resolved very quickly. She wants to tell him about the rumors she recently heard, namely that some people saw Olivia with His Majesty the Prince, and recently such meetings have become frequent. She understands that this is probably not a problem, but to console the poor little girl, she ordered gifts to be sent to her, and the maid even dared to add a note. Apparently, the very one because of which Olivia organized a whole investigation to find out who wrote it. Meanwhile, the girl didn't even know what was happening in the house. She was met by a maid who said that something strange was happening. The Empress has arrived at the palace and his lordship is looking for her right now, so it's best to go up to him and ask what's going on. Only here, there is one very awkward moment. In 14 years spent here, she was never allowed to even approach her father's office. And this is where he is now. She needs to decide whether it's worth the risk in going in here, or whether it's better to wait until he comes out himself. It remains to be hoped that she will appear just in time, and he will not blame her for daring to do such a things. Here she is already standing right in front of him, and he is no longer the same as he was just recently. And this is very frightening. He wants to talk about how he's asked her many times to become the crown princess, and she can't even do that. More precisely, she failed to do it properly, although the girl still does not understand what he wants to tell her. And he also began to say that he heard that the Empress had sent her a gift as a consolation, and that she had threatened the chief of the guards because of suspicions about some note, and called her behavior ridiculous, and that this was unworthy behavior for the future crown princess. She tells him that he got it all wrong. It wasn't just a note, someone posing as the crown prince was mocking her and insulting Madeleine. To which he asked why she thought that making fun of her was an insult to their family. Because it wasn't. Olivia, with a trembling voice and wet eyes, tells him that she is also part of this family, although she understands that he does not think so. After these words, the man only got angry. He doesn't really like to hear such things. He even frowned, as if they were advising her to disappear from his field of vision right now. All this time, the girl thought that her father ignored her because she lacked effort, and he did not see the result. Despite all his neglect, he took her here when she was left alone, gave her beautiful silk dresses and delicious food, and even sat next to Leopold, although this is not the most honorable place, but for this too, it is worth being grateful. In any case, be that as it may, he created a new family for her. Although he himself does not take part in this, she has at least 2 people who have become family. Only recently, he became even more cruel to her, began to control her more and remind her more that even though she lives in this house, this can change at any moment. In the end, he advised her to control herself and get rid of the dirty rumors that were sticking to her, and preferably not to talk to her younger sister without his permission. But if he says that she is not part of this family, it turns out that he is not her father. And accordingly, she, as not his biological daughter, should not obey him. But she did not dare to tell him this. Olivia began to explain that she hadn't done anything like that, and he asked why there were such rumors about her. Then he didn't even listen to her. He just kicked her out of his office and forbade her to appear here unless he himself told her so. It was very offensive. It is impossible to talk normally with this person. It is impossible to prove your opinion to him. He thinks that he is always right, but it is not always so. The girl once again mistakenly hoped to hear good words from him, that she was great, or at least that it was not her fault. But as usual, he humiliated and insulted her, and if he only knew what pain he had brought her throughout her life, he certainly would not have been so rude. Meanwhile, the next evening had arrived, and a victory banquet was planned for that day at the Imperial Palace. Olivia is wearing a bright red dress today, as her assistant advised. Naturally, it attracts a lot of attention. She is usually a very talked-about person anyway, and now even more so. Some have already started to think why she wore such a dress. Does she really want to say something with it? Although if you listen to all these rumors, you just want to laugh at them. This guy has already noticed her. He finds it a little funny that he first told her that green doesn't suit her, and then she immediately came in an unusual image for herself. And he also likes that she's in a bad mood, that nothing good is happening to her, even though she herself knows it. She doesn't have the strength to smile even through foursome. And in the meantime, it was reported that the sun and moon of the Empire had finally arrived at this event and asked for greetings for them. The Emperor and Empress did not come alone this time. Today, they are with their daughter, whom people are no less happy to see. She is a very beautiful girl. She has manners. Her image today is magnificent, as usual. Meanwhile, the Emperor says that this long war is finally over. This is the happiest day of his life, as well as everyone present here. And he also said that he didn't notice the main characters of today and started asking where they were hiding. Just at that moment, he appears. He thanks the Emperor for the invitation, and while he was talking, there was complete silence in the hall. He is a very respected person, so it could not be otherwise. The Emperor was very glad that his glorious knights had finally arrived, and also asked why they had arrived so late to the feast he had prepared for them. The guy apologized. He explained that there were some reasons for this, and if necessary, he was ready to atone for his guilt. His Majesty said that they were worried that the first knight of the Empire did not honor any of the ladies, but he was still ready to take the knight's oath. This means that the Duke will find a worthy lady today. In the name of the Emperor, the man even swore to fulfill one of his wishes. Everyone started waiting for him to take an oath and give this sword to this lady. But the guy is in no hurry. He didn't even look her in the eyes. The girl was already starting to get nervous. Why wasn't he doing this? When suddenly the guy left her and started approaching another girl. Literally a second later, he was already kneeling next to Olivia. It turns out that as he promised, he would give her this sword on a special day, and in such a way that she could not have been prepared for it. The guy says it's an honor to finally say this name. It's a sword that combines a precious sword and precious stones, the only one of its kind in the world. After that, as promised, he said his name, Edwin Lowell Vikander, and dedicated this sword to her. The girl doesn't believe her eyes. She doesn't realize what's happening to her. It's like a surprise, but she's very nervous, although there's definitely nothing to be afraid of around him. She remembered his words. To win the lady's favor, I must offer something truly precious, something that everyone would envy. For example, the only sword in the world that combines both a precious sword and a precious stone. And he also asked if she would let him become her sword. This probably means that he wants to become her protector. Again, a polite tone, as if he expects her to unconditionally accept any of his choices. Olivia was still wondering who she was for this man. She already wanted to tell him something. When suddenly, Leopold comes up to her and says that unfortunately he will have to take his sword back because the lady is now his fiancée, and asked if it would not be a scandal if an unmarried archduke were to promise something and give it to his fiancée. To which Edwin replied that it was a vow approved by His Majesty the Emperor, and asked what scandalous it could be to give it to Lady Madeline, unless it were against the will of His Majesty. Leopold reminded that according to the rules after the vows were made, they were to dance. So he wondered if Edwin thought it impolite for him to accompany the lady. To this, the guy only said that if his actions meant to someone as if he asked the lady for her hand in marriage and not to accept the oath, then it was no longer his problem. And then the princess decided to make the situation worse. She turned the people's attention to Olivia, said that they should point out the inappropriate etiquette. I wonder if the girl doesn't know what rules of etiquette a lady taking an oath should adhere to. The first time the knight's oath is mentioned in historical chronicles was during the time of Liam Franz, the first emperor of the empire, and Empress Olika Franz. During the chaos and war in the empire, the chronicles say that the white dress of the empress, who was praying for the safe return of the emperor, was completely soaked in blood due to the aftermath of the battle, and that the empress, keeping only her gloves snow white, in a dress red with blood, presented the emperor with flowers brought to the altar. According to the etiquette of old books, you can't find anything better than a red outfit. While the image of the girl was absolutely justified, and the princess regretted that she had started talking at all, Olivia suddenly accepted the honor bestowed upon her by his lordship with joy, in spite of all who thought they could ruin such a beautiful moment. Words cannot describe how happy the guy was when he heard these words from her. He didn't even know what to say to her about it. Then he got up and asked her forgiveness for telling her this, but he had been standing on his feet for so long that his legs were numb, and she replied that she had heard that he was an excellent knight, but it seemed that his legs were weaker than she thought. He laughed at this and said that she was absolutely right. Every time the lady saved him, the weak one, from falling and from being picked on the street, that now he would like her to save him again. And to start with, he offers to share the first dance with him. She wondered if a man whose legs had just gone numb would be able to dance straight away, to which he replied that they quickly returned to normal. The lady warned him that she had problems with this. She had never danced and did not know how to feel the rhythm, and he said that in this regard there was no need to worry, because he really likes to dance, and in general he's good at everything that has to do with the body, so maybe he can help out a little this time. Everything was fine. They had already started to dance a little, but Leopold approached them with an indignant face that his bride had been honored with an oath from the best knight of the empire. And after that, he asked her how she felt about her first oath, although it sounded like she didn't need to answer that question. At this moment, she has all sorts of thoughts. She is holding back very much so as not to tell him everything she thinks. Instead of arguing with him, she grabbed her partner's hand even tighter. He understood her and did the same. Leopold can't look at this normally because it turns out that he has disgraced himself, and it would be better if he hadn't approached them at all. It's unusual for her to contradict him and disgrace him like that in front of a huge number of people. It's very simple. She got tired of constantly being convenient for everyone. She started doing and communicating with those she likes. Just recently, she prayed that he would suddenly not think. But not bad. And now she absolutely does not care about this person. After this, the knight took the situation into his own hands. He says that if His Majesty has already said everything, then could he step aside, because they actually haven't finished the dance. To which the guy said that he would dance the first dance with his bride, and this already sounds like a challenge. I wonder what will come of it. His gaze immediately changed. He turned to the lady and asked if she would mind dancing with him, as if he seriously thinks that after the way he treated her, she will pay any attention to him at all. And his question sounded as if he had just given an order and she had no right to refuse. His confidence is already starting to anger her a little. After all, such people sometimes need to be put in their place. Even if it is rude, he absolutely deserves it. She told him that it was a banquet dedicated to the war heroes, and if he didn't understand what she meant, the girl explained that this meant that she would dance the first dance with the Duke, and also hinted that not only out of respect, but also because in any other situation she would have chosen him too. And so that he wouldn't be offended, Olivia suggested that he dance a funny dance with the girl who was standing right behind him. Now he clearly understood that she doesn't care what he thinks. She does what she wants and isn't afraid to refuse him. He is so confused that he doesn't even know what is better, to continue to interfere with them or to leave and not be disgraced. Of course, even though she acts as if she is confident in her words, inside she has some fear. Was it too much and will she regret it later, when there is no one around who can protect her? The knight noticed that something was bothering her, but first he asked if it was hard for her to hold that heavy sword. She said that although it wasn't that heavy, it would be better if they took it away from her for a while. The knight asked his assistant to take the sword so that he and the lady could continue their evening in peace. They really like music, they both really like this. The calm melody is so relaxing that they were quickly able to distract themselves from the recent situation. He gently holds her hand, looks into her eyes. It seems that this is all that they need now to be happy. And yet, he can see that she is still nervous. This time, Edwin did not remain silent and asked what was the matter, because if he could, he would try to fix it. She decided not to confess and not to tell the truth. She simply asked if there was anything more exciting than the first dance and pretended that this was the only problem. He tells her that he actually had no experience before either, and even offered to dance with her more often so that she would feel more at ease at some important events. The girl asked how he imagined it, and did he really mean that they would often meet and dance in the middle of the street, without music, attracting the attention of passers-by. He suggested discussing it later because now is the time to enjoy the moment rather than discussing something else. The knight acts so tenderly next to her that she would never think that he is truly merciless on the battlefield, and that there is so much behind his back that she doesn't even have enough imagination to imagine what he is capable of in relation to his enemies. Meanwhile, she manages to dance even better than the girl expected from herself, and he too. Although Olivia doesn't notice it yet, or rather, doesn't realize it, it's very hard for her to take her eyes off him. And then suddenly he lifts her up so sharply that she almost screamed. But she held back in time, although in fact she really liked it. He still asked her to explain why she was so thoughtful, because he wanted her to be relaxed and at ease around him. The lady replied that he had simply given her a gift that was too expensive, and she felt that she did not deserve it yet. And then he tells her that, to be honest, he really likes it when she's so shy in front of him, because it means that she respects him and tries to look better. Then they were silent for a long time, and the guy began to hint that he would actually like to give her not only the sword but also himself. But unfortunately, for now, it would be too early and probably inappropriate. But he couldn't help but say it. Meanwhile, the assistant returns and brings back the sword that he was asked to keep for a while. Suddenly, the gentleman asks why the waltz has a set time, as he would like this dance to last much longer. The assistant explained that it was just customary to change partners during the dance. So Olivia had to agree to dance with Leopold because no one else approached her. The knight is already very unhappy with this. He couldn't even imagine that such rules exist, and if he had known, he would have been in a bad mood all this time. He feels terrible watching his lady dance with someone else, even though she's not even considered his girlfriend yet. Edwin probably guesses that the lady is not delighted either. But it can't be done any other way, after all. It would be wrong to stay in place and not dance. And since she could no longer dance the second dance with the knight, she could not refuse Leopold, although she really wanted to. Even now, after he himself asked her to dance, there was no shortage of ridicule and insults. He started saying that he wasn't really thrilled with her as a partner either. And when she asked him why he approached her in the first place, he became silent. And she also doesn't like that his tempo is too fast. It's as if he's trying to dance it faster, although it won't work. Wyatt. He also began to be indignant that she was not trying to adjust to his tempo, and said that if she could not dance, it would be better to say so right away. Although he himself saw that with one person, everything was fine with her. But with him, there were some problems, so perhaps the problem was not even in her. But he himself would never admit it to himself. It was their first dance together, but she somehow imagined it better. Everything turned out just awful. But once she dreamed of being with him in the middle of a luxurious banquet hall under everyone's gaze. But it turned out like this, when it was no longer necessary. Now she has no dreams connected with this man, except perhaps never to see him and never hear anything about him. Finally, this moment came to an end. She had never waited for the end of the dance so much as today. And if someone in the past told her that in the future she would be unhappy after dancing with this person, she probably wouldn't believe it. Then the girl he came here with returned to him, and Olivia quietly moved away, because there was a very unpleasant energy next to him. It seemed to eat up all her strength. Olivia was finally able to sit down. She had been dreaming about it since the morning, and only now did she have the opportunity. Literally a couple of minutes later, some lady came up to her to congratulate her on her first dance. Although there was something to congratulate her on. This is the same girl that Leopold loves, Maria, and the lady already feels that it is better not to have anything in common with her either. She is probably no different from her lover. Of course, she only said out of politeness that she was very pleased that she was being congratulated on her first dance. It was so kind of her, although in reality she wanted to be alone and not communicate with anyone. She can't just go and ask her to leave here because if Leopold finds out about this, he can start another conflict that grows into a big scandal. It turns out interesting. In appearance, Maria is a very gentle and fragile girl, but those who know her still cannot accept that her appearance is very different from the kind of person she is. She really likes to support all sorts of gossip, intrigue. She has almost no best friends, only those with whom she sometimes communicates because few people let her into their social circle. You can expect anything from her. And it's very good that Olivia knows this. And if she didn't know, she would have had problems a long time ago. Maria always senses who can be deceived, who can be used. Apparently she is trying, so to speak, to scan this lady, but so far Olivia has not given in. And the girl is also not used to communicating with people just because it is accepted. She prefers to talk with those with whom she wants and with whom it is interesting. So now it is very difficult to maintain a conversation in which there is not even any point. They have nothing in common. They will never be friends, and there is tension between them. It just so happened that Olivia perfectly understands what Maria's goal is. Although the girl didn't even ask about it, she told her directly that ultimately, the highest place she can take is to become Countess von Lovaltz. A young lady has two ways to become a favorite of an influential man: to live as a lady, as now, or to find a suitable match and get married. And then everything is very simple, to play the role of an unofficial favorite. Olivia also said that 30 years have passed since the death of the Countess, that it seems that one very suitable place has formed. Maria began to be indignant. How dare the girl say such a thing, although she probably listened to her and would do exactly that. In that case, Olivia has only one question for her. If she is not striving to take the place of the favorite, then why does she constantly demonstrate her closeness to His Highness, to her, his official bride? The lady couldn't even answer this. She just got angry and blushed because she simply had nothing to say. Her eyes even teared up a little. She just heard the truth, but for some reason she can't admit that it's true. Meanwhile, several girls approached her and asked if they could tell her something. Although Olivia has no idea what to expect from them, she rarely communicates with anyone from high society, so she doubts that she will hear anything good from them. Suddenly, they start complimenting her, saying that her first and second dances were just amazing, and they also found out that it was her first time dancing, which makes her even more amazed. Although it was really very nice, she couldn't force a smile out of herself because she simply doesn't know how to be insincere. Then she realized that she couldn't stay there for long, returned home, wanted to calmly go to her room, but met Jade. Although I didn't think he would even be here today, he didn't warn me that he was going to come back. For her, it is a real gift. Only when she started to say that she missed him very much, for some reason she did not hear anything similar from him. He just asked in an angry voice who that guy was for her, although she doesn't quite understand who he was talking about. He said that he heard that at the reception the Archduke had taken an oath to her and asked her to explain what it was. It's very offensive to her that they haven't seen each other for a year and a half, and this is the first thing he decided to tell her at their first meeting. Then he suddenly wondered if all this was just rumors, because he doubted who would take an oath to her. In order not to humiliate herself in front of yet another person who allows himself to think so, she said that it was all true, and he looked at her as if he had been underestimating her all this time, and now he couldn't believe that she deserved it. She explained that his lordship the Archduke had sworn an oath to her. Conrad had seen it too, and he could ask him personally when he returned. For some reason, he started asking if she even understood what all this meant, although at the very least it was none of his business. The girl tells him that she is actually already an adult and had her debut, and he approached her with such an expression on his face as if she had no right to do this. At the very least, they are not even siblings, so it is strange that he allows himself to do this. Jade looked at her so carefully that he even noticed the gloves that even he himself might dream of. It was obvious how envious he was to realize that she had received them from the Archduke, and she happily replied that that was indeed the case. Now he is interested to know if they knew each other before today's meeting, and she also answered this question as it is, just to make him even more angry. Words cannot describe how angry he is with her. It seems like he himself would like to be in her place, but it is impossible. Then he couldn't take it anymore. He left her. Apparently he had nothing more to say and didn't have the strength to get even angrier. On the one hand, she enjoys bragging about such events, but on the other hand, in her mind, this meeting should have happened completely differently. Meanwhile, the imperial family had already returned home as soon as the princess entered the house. She threw a bouquet of flowers on the floor and began to trample on it, as if some enemy had given her this bouquet. Reina Franz, the princess of the empire, who does not tolerate being in second place, for her there is nothing worse than this. It is outrageous for her that Edwin did not even pay attention to her and did not give her the gift that she had been waiting for a long time. The girl was sure that he would spend the evening with her, but he simply disgraced her, and she still feels terrible. The woman tries to calm her daughter down, although she understands perfectly well how she feels now and that she would react the same way in her place. That's why she calmly allows her daughter to scream as much as she wants, to talk about that guy as much as she wants. She is also not very pleased that the prince offended the princess, but it is his decision and there is no point in discussing it anymore. Then the woman herself thought that this cannot be left to chance. She tells her daughter that it is necessary to come up with something to tame the insolence of that girl, and she also believes that her daughter knows exactly how to do it best, because there have been plenty of such cases. The girl remembered that Lady Madeline always asked her for tasks to prove that she was worthy of being the crown princess. The woman asks if she should not do everything to atone for the guilt of the late Duchess, to which the girl replied that unfortunately, only the legitimate daughter Madeline does not know the truth and defends her sisters. In the end, they decided to send her a letter with an invitation, but it is not yet clear what it is and what they have in mind. Meanwhile, the next day came. The princess decided to have a tea party, and it turns out that she sent yesterday's letter precisely for this reason. Several friends came to her. They started to compliment her. They especially liked her necklace today. The lady loves to hear this. She is glad that everyone is having fun, but at the same time she does not take her eyes off one person. Olivia finally agreed to come. She sat silently the whole time and thought about what her role was today. She feels like she was invited for no reason, but she had no choice but to go. And it was as if she was specially seated at the very end of the table, where there was almost no one, only she. The princess came up to her very unexpectedly to ask why she was silent and not keeping up the conversation. Doesn't she really like this tea party? But it's strange that she expects an honest answer to this question. In the end, she didn't sit there for long, pretended that she had urgent business and left, to the delight of her assistant, who had been trying to dissuade her from going to this meeting all morning. She explained that everything couldn't be that simple, that she wouldn't be welcome there, and even decided to go with her, just in case, to hold her, or just be there. Meanwhile, they arrived at the jewelry store. The next couple of hours promised to be very eventful and wonderful, and today the weather is very nice. Not too hot, not too cold. Just the way they like it. The assistant still doesn't understand why they came here, but she still doesn't mind taking a walk and spending time together. So they entered the store. She asked to show all the best jewelry because she wants to change something. Meanwhile, the owner of the store is very unhappy because they don't have anything that would appeal to her ladyship. She even decided to punish the person responsible for purchasing. The lady explained that this time she was just being too picky. And the problem wasn't them at all. And there was nothing wrong with that. She would just look at something else. Here she has already approached a very beautiful decoration. It glows so much that she doesn't even remember ever seeing something similar. And I immediately imagined how much it could cost because it looked like it was most likely priceless. Suddenly, some guy approached her and asked if she was interested in anything. But this voice was too familiar. At first, she didn't even pay attention to it. But then she realized that she had heard this voice just recently. Then she turned her head to the side and saw a man who, as usual, appears at the time and in the place where it is absolutely unexpected. The shop owner didn't recognize the guy. She thought that someone was bothering the girl. She wanted to help, but the lady said in time that it was her friend, so everything was fine. Meanwhile, a table was set for them. Tea was prepared so that their time in this store would be as comfortable as possible. The guy asks how the girl ended up here, to which she replies that she just wants to choose a gift for his lordship. He couldn't even believe those eyes because rarely does anyone give him gifts, especially without a reason. Olivia explained that the thing is that the brooch she gave him yesterday actually belongs to her sister, to which he asked if she was accidentally saying that she was taking his gift away. At least that's how he understood it. The girl says that this is what she originally wanted to say, but she would like to give another gift instead. And in general, it would have been better from the very beginning if she had prepared everything properly. But as he already knows, the situation was not the most suitable. He tells her that he just didn't want to put her in an awkward position. She didn't have time to answer him, as that woman approached them. She recognized the Archduke by name and looked at him from the side. She wants to apologize for not greeting him right away. And then it started. He says that he had his eye on some jewelry and asked a woman to bring it to try on. The girl understands that this doesn't suit her. At least she thinks so. And the woman has already brought the jewelry and no excuses are accepted. He gently put this necklace on her neck, and in fact, she and he had never seen anything more beautiful. It looks so chic, as if it was made for her. She's somehow not used to reacting to such gifts. Olivia is silent, although inside she has simply crazy emotions that are impossible to even convey emotionally. He tells her that this necklace suits her even better than he thought, so there is no discussion. He buys it and would like to see her with the gift as often as possible. Every time he tells her something like that, on the one hand, she wants him to say more of this, but on the other hand, it really confuses her. She immediately wants to give him gifts in return, although she understands that this is wrong, and if he does it, then it means from the heart, without demanding or expecting anything in return. She also feels a little awkward because there is probably a reason for all these actions, but she is afraid to think about it for now. Olivia ends up riding in a carriage, and there is so much stuff around her that if one of her relatives, like her older brother, sees it, he will be furious. The lady is worried about how to hide all this from them, because the last time was enough for her, when they simply found out that she had seen him. And then, out of the blue, she admits that she wants to say something, and that she's been thinking about it the whole time she was silent. She says that if it's because of a marriage proposal, then he doesn't need to try so hard for her. The guy asked if she really thought he was trying so hard, to which she replied that it was. After all, he was too kind to her, and she was grateful for all the compliments, tender looks, caring gestures, polite tone, expensive gifts. All of this was very valuable to her. The guy responded that in that case, he was now going to be even more kind to her, because he wants to be even more kind. But he holds back, trying to approach her in a way that doesn't burden her. After that, he asked her to open some box that he had been holding behind his back all this time. It's for her sister because He wants to make a good impression on her sister because he knows she deserves it, and she will definitely be pleased. Here they have already arrived. The assistant quickly helped to carry the gifts to the palace, and she calmly got out of the carriage and said goodbye to the knight. Overall, she was very pleased with this meeting, and who would have thought that they would see each other there? She even has a feeling that perhaps he is following her. The girl enters the house, already wants to please her sister, but sees the displeased looks of the maids. At first it seemed to her that there was nothing unusual about it, but then she heard her sister crying and ran to her faster. She was very close. The girl was very scared, asked what happened to her, and also thought that maybe someone had offended her. She's almost sitting on the floor, all in tears. The girl heard that Olivia had arrived, but she didn't even raise her head up. Usually they greeted each other, but as soon as she approached her, the girl said that now she knew the truth. That because of Olivia, their mother died, and that she will never forgive her for it. Olivia felt terrible. She couldn't hold the gift in her hands. It fell out of her hands right onto the floor. The necklace broke. But that's not the main thing now, because now I need to somehow explain to my sister that she was wrong to believe those people who told her that. Meanwhile, they are already in the room. The younger sister does not want to listen to the older one. She was probably instilled with a lie, that she cannot believe or even admit the thought that Olivia could not do such a thing. The girl begs her to listen to her, but it is clear that she does not even want to see her. The sister asked her not to come too close to her, and better yet, to leave her alone. She was very disappointed in her, even said that all people were right and it was a pity that she trusted her all this time. Olivia heard that it was all her fault, that she was a terrible person and that it would have been better if she had never appeared in this house. I wonder who set the child against his sister, although anyone could have done it. After all, her sister was the only one who treated her well. So besides her, there are only enemies here, and now even she hates her. After all this, her father called her to him to ask how she allowed her younger sister to find out the truth. He always asked her not to tell anything, and when the girl began to explain that she was not even at home, no one heard it. As usual, all her words go in one ear and out the other, and there are a lot of maids around the office who are interested in listening to what they are talking about.